Hello, everybody. I'm Stuart Nachbar, founder of Educated Quest. With me today is Bess Djavadi, a soon-to-be graduating senior at the University of California, Santa Barbara, by way of Woodland Hills, California. Bess is earning her degree in statistics from this school that's quite popular not only in California, but elsewhere. Bess, one question I'd like to ask, how many days of sunshine are there in Santa Barbara?
Um, I don't know how many days of sunshine, but I can tell you I can remember about 5 days of rain. Um, so the
Over
weather's always perfect. It's really, really great.
over 4 years, they've been following.
Um, we had one pretty bad winter my freshman year. Um, so it was raining for, maybe a month, and everyone was just like losing their mind, hating it.
When you were looking for college, when you were in high school, what was important to you?
So for me personally, I really wanted to stay in California because I am spoiled by the weather and I just couldn't leave it. And I was undeclared, so I wanted a school that was like generally good in lots of different places, so I could kind of make up my mind and see what was happening. And just for me, like financially, the UCs made the most sense. So I was really looking at those the most.
What schools did you consider? Did you consider all of them in the UC system?
I applied to UCLA, UC Berkeley, San Diego, Irvine, Davis, and Santa Barbara.
And what led you to choose Santa Barbara?
Well, I got into all of them, so I was super lucky. Um, and I was eventually picking between UCLA and UCSB. And I just really liked the kind of lifestyle and attitude at UCSB. And I thought academically, it's not too far off. Like it's pretty much all like the same across the UCs. And UCSB owns the coastline. Like you can go to school right on the beach, which was the huge major draw. Like I really like outdoorsy things and the mountains were great. And I just really liked being on campus. Like I just felt calm and like at home.
So, can you talk a little bit more about the vibe compared to UCLA, since you've grown up in Southern California?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the vibe at UCLA also really great. It's just you're in the middle of a city, so if you want to do anything, you have to drive. It's in the middle of Westwood, which is like very nice, but it's also like super similar to where I grew up. And I really like the outdoorsy things, so I didn't want to necessarily spend, every weekend, going to brunch and like, like the kind of like stereotypical LA things. Whereas like in Santa Barbara, it's a lot more outdoorsy. So I would spend my weekends going hiking, going surfing, and that to me was just much more appealing.
That's probably one of the most beautiful campuses I've ever seen, even though
Oh,
I've never set foot there.
it's amazing. Like it could not be prettier.
So did you like go surfing early in the morning and then go to class and then go surfing at night?
Well, no, I had one of my jobs was at a beach rental shack where we'd rent like surfboards, paddleboards, and whatnot. So I would tend to go either surfing or paddleboarding before my shift, go to work, do my thing, and then just go home for the night after like all my classes on campus.
Do Californians who come to UCSB typically know how to surf, or do most people learn?
A lot of people learn. So some people are very into it, but a lot of people will just learn in general. I worked for our school's adventure program, so we would actually teach classes on that. So that was like always super cool, and we got tons of people coming through learning how.
Were most of your classmates that you knew from California?
Um, I would say it was about 75-25 of the people I personally knew. So a lot from California and from the people in California, mostly from the Bay Area. But then I also knew a fair number of people from out of state and international. So it wasn't weird for people outside of California to be there as well.
What would you tell someone from New Jersey who applied but didn't get a chance to visit for very long or even visit at all about Southern California and going to college there versus
It's
going to
just
college on the East Coast?
for sure. I mean, I didn't really like look into schools in the East Coast, so I don't know so much about like the kind of East Coast vibe or mentality, but at least at UCSB, it's very collaborative. very laid back. People are definitely very concerned about doing well and succeeding, but there's not very much like a competitive atmosphere. It's much more collaborative. Um, so I don't know how it is on the East Coast, but there's definitely like a good value in terms of like doing your work and also enjoying your life. So it's a good balance, I think.
Do you feel it's more cooperative and collaborative than UCLA might have been for you?
I think so. I found UCSB to be very collaborative. And I believe most of the UCs are like that. The only ones I've heard that aren't necessarily as collaborative are maybe UC Berkeley, and even that's just in specific departments. So,
You said you applied undeclared.
yes.
Is it easier to be undeclared at some UCs than it is at others?
I would personally recommend not going undeclared at all. So, because the UCs are so big, a lot of times when you sign up for classes, it's restricted to only majors of those classes. So, it can be hard to get into those courses unless like you really make an effort or I had priority registration because I'm in the honors college, which helps because you can get it your second time around, but you're really fighting for those last few spots. So if a student is generally interested in, let's just say, STEM in general, but they're not sure which specific area, just declare any old STEM major. They're super easy to switch, and it opens up the classes. Same thing for like, if you're interested in political science, even if you don't know for sure it's what you want to do, just declare it and you can always change it later. It's so easy to change.
Can you change from political science, say, to, and let's say you took calculus and physics in your first quarter, could you switch into engineering?
So there's multiple colleges. There's the college, at least at UCSB, the College of Letters and Sciences, the College of Engineering, and the College of Creative Studies. I was in the College of Letters and Sciences, so for me to switch into anything in the College of Letters and Sciences was super easy to do. If I wanted to switch to the College of Engineering, that would be harder because it's a whole separate school, and I would have to like do a whole like petition and whatnot, and it's also harder to get those classes. So at least at UCSB, generally, if you want engineering, declare any old engineering. If you want non-engineering, just declare any one, kind of get into it. And then the College of Creative Studies, it's a whole separate animal where essentially students create their own coursework, and it's basically like grad school, but for undergrad.
What's the difference? Were you in honors from freshman year going forward?
Yeah, so I got in honors with like my acceptance. So that really helped in terms of like registering for classes because you get priority registration, and you also got like honors sections and stuff. So instead of like a TA for certain classes, we would have the actual professor teaching sections. They gave you access to honors seminar, which were really interesting because it's just like once a week and
Hmm.
you learn like about some random topic that you found interesting that didn't necessarily have to do with your area of study.
So you were in honors freshman year. You didn't have to worry about trying to petition in for a sophomore year. Did other people you know do that, try to do that?
Yeah, and for them it was also super easy. I believe the threshold is a 3.6 GPA. So if you do that, all you have to do is apply to the honors college, and if you meet that threshold, you're accepted. There's also, you got to do a certain number of honors experiences, and that would be an honors seminar or like an honors thesis project section. To do two of those a year and a certain number of community service hours. And so if you didn't meet those requirements, you would be kicked out of the honors college.
Now, with honors, was there additional advising to help you declare a major?
So there is an honors advisor, but the advising, like academic advising for undeclared students is the same for everyone. And what I personally did is once I figured out what kind of departments I was leaning more towards, I went to those department specific advisors. And all of the departments have drop-in hours, so anyone can just walk in from, let's just say, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 1 to 4, because that's what the
Hmm.
statistics department was. Anyone could just stop by and talk to an advisor, and they'll like look at what kind of like things you want to do and like course planning and whatnot, even if you aren't in the major. I also found that the career services advising was pretty good in terms of determining a major for me personally, because I talked to them about what kind of jobs I wanted, and then they told me what kind of majors got those jobs.
Now, from walking in the door, getting your keys to your room and settling in, to the time you declared a major, What was the process of discovering what you wanted to major in?
Oh gosh. I just took a bunch of random classes. Just anything that sounded interesting, I just took because I had GEs anyways. And I really like math, so I was taking a lot of math classes. And I did take a lot of like classics, art history, those sorts of classes as well, because just reading course descriptions, that was what was interesting to me.
So the general education requirements, do you find that they were easy to meet, difficult to meet? You had to take something your senior year to fulfill any of them?
I finished all of my GEs, I would say, in 4 quarters with AP
Uh-huh.
tests.
Oh,
So for me personally, because I went for a BS, the GE requirements were not as heavy. For people going for BAs, they have a few more classes to take, but still reasonable to get done. And I would say 5 or 6 quarters, which is like 2 years.
could you have done a BA or a BS in your major?
Yes.
And the BS, you chose the BS, why?
It just opened up more career opportunities. So.
Um, what were some of the career development and academic opportunities that you received from UCSB that you might not have received if you went elsewhere?
Well, I would say that because UCSB doesn't have a lot of grad schools, a lot of the professors utilize undergrads as grad students, which definitely opens up a lot of doors. So lab positions are always open to undergrads, research positions are open to undergrads, and even just being able to kind of talk with professors, they sort of treat you in a way that they wouldn't necessarily be as willing to for like a first year undergrad because they don't have grad students. They're looking for people to work for them. Um, and that was definitely something really big for me, I think. Also, my first year, I did something called the leadership training course, which was in adventure programs. So you're learning leadership skills, but you're learning it through rock climbing and like, kayaking and whatnot. So it looks great on a resume, but it was so much fun. And that definitely, I think, gave me some good like resume fodder while really just having a great time and making awesome friends.
How soon in your education were you doing research with faculty, if you did it?
Um, so they want upper division students.
Okay.
So it depends on how many units you have because once you're in like school, like for example, I had sophomore standing my second quarter because of AP tests. And so they want people who are junior standing or above. So that can be in your second year. Um,
So how many AP credits did you walk in with?
Oh gosh. I don't know, like 30 something.
If someone walked in with less than half that many, which would probably be quite likely, would they have a more difficult time getting through the school?
No. I know people who came in with no APs and they were just fine. They would maybe have a few more general ed requirements to do, and you wouldn't go through the standings as quickly. But I've been senior standing for almost 2 years now, and it makes no difference. It really matters when you get your course requirements done, which you can very easily do in 4 years or less.
Now, let's say you were a major like economics or psychology, or where you're taking courses in different departments, but it still fulfilled a major. Like psychology, you'd need statistics, you'd need a biology course.
For sure.
Um, Economics, you'd need calculus and statistics. Do those courses also help you fill the GEs?
Yes, yes. So on the course sign up, it'll give you a little description with what it fulfills. So let's just say I have a friend who's a communications major and she had to take a statistics class. That applied to her math science general ed, even though it was also a major course. So you can get through the GEs pretty quickly with that in mind.
So it really helps if you kind of know your major a little earlier, because then you see, okay, I can get these GEs done a
Yeah,
little within the major, and that makes it a little easier too.
it definitely makes it easier, but I wouldn't be too stressed about it because, for example, that same friend who was a communications major, she was undeclared for a full year and a half and still graduated in 3 years and 1 quarter. So she still graduated early, being undeclared.
Because you were in honors, did you write an honors thesis?
I did not write an honors thesis personally because my department did not require it. But I know some people in other departments, like philosophy, for example, that do like a senior thesis.
So for honors, you would take a selection of courses, and honors will appear on your diploma.
Yes.
Okay, that's pretty cool. Now, is it easy, hard to double major if you walked in with very few or no APs?
You definitely could double major. A lot of it depends on how similar the majors are. So, for example, doing a double major in political science and global studies would definitely be a lot easier than doing a double major in biology and global studies. So, a lot of classes, like a lot of departments, allow classes from another department to apply to their major. And so, if you have two related ones, that's pretty easy to do. Or if, for example, you're getting two BAs, which require fewer courses, that also makes it easier to do.
So, like, let's say you took the harder math in one major, that might make you help you fill the math in the other major.
Exactly. Yeah,
Okay, so there is some flexibility if you learn to work with your advisor early and you look at the degree map and you see this is what I need to do to finish here. This is what I need to do to finish here.
definitely. Yes.
Did you use the Career Center to find internships or other opportunities while you were going through the degree?
I did not use them to find internships. I did use them to help me get a major. I ended up being really lucky. I applied for just a bunch of random internships. I got a really great one as my first internship, and they kept inviting me back. So
Oh,
I've only ever had to go through that process once, which has been really fortunate. And they also offered me a full-time job post-grad.
and can
So
you talk about that, like what the internships were and where you're working after you finish?
for sure. So my internship is was at Raytheon. It was an engineering position, strangely enough, but because of statistics and data science, I had a lot of software experience, and it just worked out. And so each summer, I've just been going back to them. And even though it has not as much to do with my course of study, I've been learning hardware engineering, systems engineering, and just yeah, they keep letting me come back, thankfully. And I signed an offer for when I graduate. So I'm really excited
And
about that.
and will the job that you start be a more advanced level of what you did as an intern, or will you be doing other new work that you didn't do
So
before?
um, because as an intern, I got my security clearance. I just recently got my clearance. I'll be allowed to work on different projects because I'm now allowed to see what those projects are. So I imagine it'll be like a higher level of the same type of work I did as an intern. And I also spoke to my manager, and he's happy if I decide if I want to make some sort of like lateral move to go closer to my degree. That's totally fine as well. So um, I just need to figure that out in the first 6 months or so that I'm there.
Do you think you'll go on for further education?
Not immediately, but I could see myself doing a master's in a few years or so. Yeah.
Is Raytheon going to have you work from like where you are now, or will you be able to go to an office to go to work?
So it's in an office work. They're considered like a what you call what's the word like a necessary contractor. So I able to go into the office because a lot of it is physical, like hands-on work.
Are they near Santa Barbara?
They have an office in Santa Barbara. They have one in Ventura, one in LA. They have them all over.
So you'll be moving from where you are closer to where you work?
So right now I'm at home, like my parents' home. And so once COVID is over, I will figure out an alternate living situation.
Well, you're very fortunate because you're going to graduate real soon.
Yes, one more
For
quarter.
for students who have to come back, or for students who are going to be starting in the fall, what's going to be the experience on campus? Are people going to take classes online? Are they going to be on campus taking classes and being involved in activities? What's going, have you heard anything about what's going to happen?
For sure. So what I've heard is it's going to be a hybrid situation. So for classes that have, I forgot what the number is, but I believe it's like 50 or more students, they're going to do an online portion. And for classes that are smaller and for lab courses, they'll have it in person. And also, just UCSB in general, we have Isla Vista, which is this 1 square mile town right off campus where everyone after their first year pretty much lives. And so the social experience is very much the same. When I was there during COVID, even though things were closed down and people were social distancing, we were still like, going out to parks and stuff 6 feet away, going to the beach 6 feet away. So the campus atmosphere, I would say, is fairly similar, even though it's shifted more towards Isla Vista and not so much on physical campus, because a lot of like clubs and stuff moved their meetings to Zoom and whatnot. And I think as long as there's fewer than 50 people, they're allowing it to open up a bit more.
So there'll be classes, there'll be extracurriculars in small groups.
I believe so.
And people who live on campus, are they going to, like a double, become a single, or is they going to just tell people live off campus?
I don't know about that one. My freshman year, I lived in a triple with a communal bathroom. So I don't think they're gonna want to keep that up. I'm not exactly sure what the situation there is, to be honest.
So for my last question, for students who are still in high school, maybe even students who are in California community colleges or thinking of transferring, who would be happiest at UCSB versus the other UC campuses and maybe other large universities they might be considering?
For sure. For me, what made me so happy with UCSB was the physical environment. And so I think if you like the beach, if you like the kind of outdoors lifestyle, if you want something where they really value school, but they also really value social life and having a good time and having that balance, like if that is important to you, I definitely think UCSB is a really great place to be.
Bess, thank you for spending this time with me. I really appreciate it. And I appreciate
Of
learning
course.
about UCSB.
Thank you so much.